Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. You're watching P3, the place where we feature individuals who have tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and today I am very grateful to have the lovely Aurora Esmeralda. She is a multi-dimensional, transformational spiritual coach. She's multifaceted, she's a multi-potentialite, and I'm so happy that we have her on the show today. Thank you so much, Aurora, for being with us today.
Thank you, Janie. Thank you for the amazing introduction. You absolutely got it right, and I'm just honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You personally have gone through an incredible transformation. You have faced so much adversity and challenges and trauma, and you really have devoted many years of your life. I don't know when this journey started for you, but I know I've known you for quite some time, and I don't know if it's been more than the last 6 years since we met, but this is a journey that you take very seriously. And as you went on it yourself, all the knowledge and wisdom and all the hard knocks life stuff that you've learned all over the years, you now share that with people. So I know you as Esmeralda, and I love that name. And Aurora is your actual birth name, right? Like your first name, and Esmeralda is your middle name?
Absolutely.
Tell me about the name, and then we'll get into like what you actually do.
Okay. So yeah, it took me a while to figure out how do I want to, introduce myself. But let's be real. I've been doing this, oh my God, you can say most of my life, but when it came down to the actual nutrition and the deep transformation that you've seen, it's been, I want to say, almost a 9-year journey, right? You met me when I was really going through it and going through the transformation myself. And, it's funny with the name Aurora, Aurora Esmeralda is my name. It's not made up. And for a long time, people have known me as Esmeralda, and we love it. It's so mysterious. It's such a great name. It's fun. But Aurora really does embody, what it is that I am up to in life and what it is that I really do, which is bring light. I am a light worker, a light walker. I've been walking this path my whole life, and it is my mission to inspire and bring light to others, because I really believe that at the core of the human existence, we all just want to be happy. We want to experience peace. We want to experience joy. We want to learn how to love ourselves, right? I feel like that's a big theme now in our generation, a big topic that we talk about. And that is really what I do, is I teach people how to embody a full transformation of true self-love and you walking in your light.
And so as a light worker, what is light and power, and what does that mean to you?
Oof, that's a loaded question, and I'll do my best to answer it. So I've been told by many people, it's not something that I saw for myself, because as you know, you're the one that can look at yourself in the mirror and you're never going to see yourself. But I've always told that I've embodied a lot of light, and a lot of light. And after some self-analysis and, obviously sitting with myself and literally sitting with myself in silence, doing Vipassana for 20 days straight, I really got to understand what that means, what it is to just be, right? We hear that a lot, especially in the spiritual community, be, embodiment. But what does that really mean? For me personally, it means being the best version of yourself, right? We came to this planet, we came on a mission. I truly believe that we didn't come here just to work in the system, play these roles, get a job, do things we don't like, live our life for money and status, and all of these things that really do not fill us up on the inside, right? So for me, what that means is every single step in my existence is a prayer. And that means that what I do, what I say, who I interact with, how I eat, the things I consume, whether that be entertainment, whether that be food, whether that be beauty products, it all has to have a purpose. And it's got to feed me in a way that's going to elevate me. And I think it's safe to say now that a lot of people are aware that we do live in a world that's designed to pretty much destroy us, break us down, self-destruct, right? It's like a war. I've been saying this for a while, ever since COVID really started, because I finally felt like I was in a position to speak my truth. And we are in you can say, a multidimensional war against our consciousness. And if you understand that, and you can look at that, through watching The Matrix, is a great movie to kind of illustrate what it is that we're going through. our consciousness is at stake. And if you really want to come here, be the best version of yourself, living your power, living your passion, living your purpose, you have to understand who you really are. And that's really what I do is I teach and I help people understand how their energy works, how, what we consume, whether that be entertainment, music, especially food, because that goes through our opening, right? This is our avatar. And in order to embody light, you have to be careful what it is that you consume. So for me, I've been on this super, awakened journey for a while. I was always an outcast, felt like I didn't fit in, but I finally understand why that was. Your elevation will require your isolation many times. And that isolation is going to be going through the metamorphosis of really dying to that past self, right? That darkness, that density, that shadow self. But we have to sit with it. We have to love it and understand that that is part of us. And then we choose who we want to be. And then that choosing, that's where we start to really, and again, I say plant-based nutrition because that is the highest frequency food available to us in order to embody the most light. I hope that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And I know that people that are watching, everyone is in a different part of their journey. So even those that are just starting to tap into, well, what is consciousness and what is self-love and what is light? And I think people are understanding that there's this, these two sides to self, the self-saboteur and the critic, and that voice is very much tied to our ego and the shadow that you were mentioning. And it has all of these ideologies and concepts and meanings and memories and belief structures that shape it, but it is always coming from a protective mechanism and fear. And then there's the other side that's whole and doesn't feel broken and it's not lacking anything. And once you start dialing into that side of yourself and building those muscles, it makes it much easier to navigate through life, especially when those voices start to pop up again and or life throws you a curveball. You mentioned, all the different things that we have to take into consideration when we are thinking of our health and our well-being. So there's like the mental and the emotional and the spiritual and the physical, and you touched on food, high vibration food. So tell us a little bit about how you became a nutritional coach and where that all sort of that inspiration came.
Well, it honestly, it started at a really, really young age. So I'll give you guys a little history about who I am and how I ended up here, and why I care so much about nutrition specifically. So I was born into a traditional Mexican family where we cooked everything from scratch. I love my food. I love my tradition. But, let's be real. It's not the healthiest food on the planet. It tastes delicious, but we do use a lot of animal products. We use a lot of dairy, a lot of cheese. Worst of all, we use a lot of lard, and we cook with a lot of oil. We even recycle our oil, which is absolutely terrible, right? So I was already obese by the age of 13, and nowadays we know that in our society, especially living in the Western world with our standard American diet, the SAD diet, by the age of 10, our children, including ourselves, already have fatty streaks in our hearts. So whether, it's not a question of whether or not to eat to be healthy. It's a question of whether or not to eat to reverse the damage that we have already done to ourselves out of pure ignorance. I'm not the food police. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm just sharing my story. So I was very obese by the age of 13. And at that point, I wasn't happy with myself. I was getting picked on, not just at school, but at home. And I just felt like I wasn't lovable, right? So I went on this journey to try to change myself, because I was at war with myself already at a young age, at war. And we went on the journey, and I'm not proud of it, but it is part of my story. I had an eating disorder for about 13, 14 years. I had a bulimia. So you can imagine hiding that. I was very successful in my professional academic careers, but I was always hiding a part of myself. I was always at war with myself. People thought, oh my God, you're so beautiful and this and that. And you have such a great body and you can eat anything you want. But I knew it was all a lie, and I was literally just ashamed. There was so much guilt. I felt like if people only knew the truth, they would absolutely leave me and abandon me, which was the case. And, to make a long story short, I finally landed this amazing corporate job where the CEO of the company, her sister had bulimia. So for the first time, I was approached, by someone that actually cared and wanted to help and had the ability to help. Because let's be real, trying to get healthy in America is very, very expensive. So we want to keep that in mind when we are, eating and taking care of ourselves. So when I was dealing with bulimia, I was looking to have an inpatient, outpatient kind of recovery service. And with insurance, just to be honest, with insurance to go into treatment, it costs $800 a day. So living in Los Angeles at the age, how old was I at this point? It's been 10 years since I recovered from bulimia. So I was, 25 years old. At the age of 25, being able to afford that kind of treatment and maintain my job and my rent, it was impossible. So I did what any, manifestor would do, not knowing what I was doing. And I demanded, I didn't even ask, because when you ask, it is always given, right? I demanded clarity and guidance. And that's what I did. I just asked, please help me. All I want to do, my daily prayer was, I just want to be healthy and happy, because I knew what it was to live the complete opposite of that. And so, when I manifested this corporate job, full benefits, and the CEO that approached me when we were traveling in Europe, we were doing a webmaster trade show, and we were the sponsors. So during breakfast, she came to me. We took a walk on the beach in Barcelona, and she offered her assistance, and I of course accepted it. For the first time, I felt like I deserved it and I was ready for it. So that put me through an outpatient treatment center where I was getting the best care, the best treatment with the best therapist, the best nutritionist. And it introduced me to the first time to vegetarian food, not vegan, but vegetarian. And so, something for those of you that have dealt with an eating disorder, there's nothing to be ashamed of it. I mean, 85% of the world doesn't know how to eat. It's not just anorexia. It's not just bulimia. Our biggest eating disorder is overeating. And it's not to body shame. It's not to, any of that. It's just to understand that it is a big, big concern, because we have 16 million people a year, 16 million people a year dying of heart disease that can be completely preventable and reversible within 2 weeks. Proven. So our eating disorders are a serious, serious health concern, especially to our existence. And so when I started to eat, what I noticed was I started to feel within 2 weeks, right? Not eating and controlling, what I ate. And what I did was a way of controlling my pain and my emotions, because that's what an eating disorder is. It's a way that we numb ourselves. And so when I stopped that and I actually started, eating and following all of my instructions with my nutritionist, I started to feel and emotions started to come up. And I started to be very sensitive. And, I thought I wasn't for a long time of having an eating disorder. I had convinced myself that I was a very cold and numb person that didn't feel anything, which, if you know me, it's the complete opposite. I was the most sensitive, hypersensitive people there is. And it's truly a gift to be that sensitive, because I'm able to navigate my existence with a lot more ease, a lot more grace, and a lot more power. And I trust myself. So when I started to eat vegetarian, what started to happen in my body, I started to feel. And I noticed when I ate vegetarian, I felt better. When I would consume the animal products, I felt heavy. I felt dense. I felt depressed. All of these things that were just like, oh, wow, I've never noticed this before for myself. So once I, let's say graduated, what realistically happened, my insurance company cut me off because I was doing so well. I was getting so much better. And of course, they didn't want to pay for it anymore. So she doesn't need the services, throw her back into the real world. So there I went. And immediately when I, got back out there, I started to just do the best that I could with eating clean. And what I thought that was, eating white meat, eating brown rice. I try to steer away from the meats. I was still consuming fish and egg whites, and my body just wasn't feeling right. There was a lot of inflammation. There was a lot of pain. I noticed that it wasn't feeling the same way that it was feeling when I was in my treatment center. So I went in to get my, biannually pap smear as a woman. And that's when I was diagnosed for the first time with stage 3 breast cancer. And that was, to me, kind of a big slap in the face after just going through, in my personal life, there's so much, transformation, so much breakdowns and breakthroughs, and then the eating disorder, and finally thinking that I was getting to a healthier point in my life, and here comes the diagnosis of breast cancer. So I feel like that's honestly, even though I've always been a very spiritual, conscious person, I think that's when I really, really connected with source, because for the first time I fell on my knees. I asked for clarity and guidance. I didn't know who I was talking to. I just knew that there was an infinite intelligence out there. The simple fact that women exist and that we are this amazing, conscious vessel that transports non-physical into the physical and create life. I knew that there was something greater that I couldn't understand, but that was in the background doing something. And I decided to just surrender and ask for clarity and guidance. And I demanded that I understand what was happening to me so that I could heal myself and in the process help others, or for me to just be taken home. Like, those were my only two requests. Either give me the clarity and guidance to figure out how this happened to me, or take me home. And honestly, that is when I went down the rabbit hole, as we say, and I started to understand. And a lot of, at the time I was working at a corporate job, so I had a lot of very, you can say, thinkers, you know, or anonymous, are people out there that have always been questioning things. And so they started to feed me a lot of information. And before I knew it, I was going down the rabbit hole and I was studying nutrition. I watched, you know, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, Forks Over Knives. At this point, What the Health wasn't out, but I was going through that process of kind of seeing, you know, what is really going on? Am I really waking up in this sci-fi novel kind of, you know, reality where, you know, I'm literally being poisoned and my life is being, you know, taken away from me. And then I have to spend the rest of my life either going through the pharmaceutical and the healthcare industry, or how do you play this game? How do you win in this game that's literally set up for you to fail? And honestly, that's when the big awakening happening for me, because I decided to self-experiment. And I decided that if, you know, these individuals that have recorded their journey have succeeded and have reversed these awful diseases and conditions in their body. And, you know, I was noticing that since the 1930s, there was a Nobel Prize winner, a doctor, that stated that in an alkaline oxidized environment, cancer cannot exist. And that always resonated with me. In an alkaline oxidized environment, cancer cannot exist. So then I started to research and understand that the foods that I had been eating most of my life in the standard American diet were completely acidic and toxic and filled with chemicals and things that just shouldn't be in our freaking food, you know? They just shouldn't, and they're feeding it to our children. And, you know, the FDA, the USDA, all of these government organizations that say it's okay to eat these foods, it is not okay. And I am not the first nor the only person, nor will I be the last one to come forth and say this. And we really need to understand that, because it's our life and our consciousness at stake. And why does that matter? I'm going to break it down for you really quick. When you are born into a society that you literally are born into a system, your parents are taken away, they're working just to make ends meet. You are being raised by the school system that's completely indoctrinating you, giving you false history, feeding you things that you shouldn't be going into your body, and then, you know, basically preparing you to be either a worker for somebody else, or unfortunately, a cellmate, right? To go into prison, because those are the two things for the most part that school prepares us for. And by the time you graduate, you're either forced to go into the world and work and figure out what you want to do, or you're forced to, like me, choose a career or choose something that you want to study and go into further education. And, you know, if you're lucky and you're conscious, you decided to go work and figure things out. If not, you went into college and you got yourself into a whole bunch of debt. And, you know, then you graduated from there. And if you were like me, you graduated when the economy tanked the last time, which was in 2006, 2007, you know, 2008, and you don't have a job. And so, at least for me, I think the reason why I had such a profound spiritual awakening during that time is I was tired of suffering. And a lot of, you know, like my spiritual coaches, one of my favorite guys, Kevin Trudeau, who wrote Natural Cures and Your Wish is Your Command. He says, you know, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, that is when you're able to give your back to the things that make you sick and tired and actually open up to the new possibilities that are available for you. And that's basically what happened to me. I decided to, after realizing, wait, I don't understand how this is even possible. How am I the only one that's conscious and awake and seeing that I got sick because I've been consuming things that should have never been in my body, that are completely made in labs, that are dangerous, that shouldn't, I mean, there's forgot the name of the chemical, and I'm not going to try to remember it right now, but I will definitely send it to you so you can share it with your users. But if you look at most of the General Mills cereals, there's an ingredient in there that's a cleanser to remove wall paint. And when you use this cleanser, it's I forgot. I can't remember right now. Should have remembered it. But you have to use your gloves. You have to use gloves in order to remove this very toxic paint from the wall before you paint. However, there's a little, doses of it in our children's cereal and in our food, and you wonder why, right? A lot of people will argue, well, everything in moderation. No, not when it's in your food, not when it's in your beauty products. I mean, your skin is your biggest organ. So if you're using conventional, cheap, chemical-based products for your skin, for your face, for your hair, as a woman, like, you shouldn't especially be doing this, because it does affect your DNA construct. And if we know anything about our DNA, that is where the transformation is happening. So to answer your question in a really long way, this is why I became a plant-based nutritional coach, because I understand that every single thing that goes into our body affects our consciousness. And so little by little, they've been poisoning us, and little by little we can choose to reverse that. And it's honestly a lot quicker than we think. Within 2 weeks of going through my program, you can literally reverse cancer, diabetes. I'm not going to say reverse because they're going to sue me and come after me,
Right.
but you can completely change the biochemistry of your body to notice how these tumors will reverse. Obviously, go consult a doctor, definitely see your specialist, get your checkups like I did, but you will notice that you will not need to go through the chemo, you will not need to go through any radiation, and you can literally get your health back. It does take a lot of determination and self-will, but it's worth it because you're worth it and your life is worth it. And honestly, it gets a lot easier. I don't struggle, feeding myself and eating. We live in the world, I feel, that's a lot more subservient to eating healthy. And especially if you're living in bigger cities, you'll have a lot of choices. And, if not, I can always teach you how to modify your orders, even in restaurants, so that you can thrive wherever you go. It's a lot simpler than we think, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time.
It's so true. I mean, there were so many different things that you touched on, but each of them is a big part of what's shaping us. And that's why a lot of what transformation is about, or metamorphosis, is identifying these things that are impacting you adversely, and then discovering how do you replace these habits that are not serving my greatest good. They're not serving my health and my wellness. And you hit the nail on the head. And people say this all the time. And it's like, your health is your wealth. Wisdom is our wealth. Knowledge is power. And there's so much information out there, and it can be really difficult to sift through it all. And that's what's so great about people like you, who've already done all the homework, who already figured out what brands have the best kinds of foods for you to pick from, and what tastes good, and how to like zhuzh things up. Because people always think that if I'm going to eat healthy, that it has to be boring, or that it's not going to have flavor. And that's like the furthest thing from the truth. And more people are aligning with this ideology around protein doesn't just have to come from animals. We can go straight to the source. And I love that you talked about having that relationship with source and understanding what really fuels you from the inside out. So you touched a lot on the food part, and it's beautiful. That is a big part. What are we drinking and what are we eating? But like you mentioned earlier, a lot more is shaping our health. What are we watching and listening to, and who are we hanging out with? Do you mind touching a little on when you started making those difficult choices? Like when you started changing your life for the better, you start to lose people and things start to change. That's not the only thing that changes is you. It's like the people around you start to maybe fall away. And so talk a little bit about how when you start aligning with your soul integrity and, treating yourself lovingly, what were some of the things that you noticed started happening in your life? Maybe good and or quote unquote bad. That really isn't bad at all when you think about it.
It's not, but it will feel like that. And I can say that from personal experience. I mean, I left home when I was 14. So that's when my transformation happened. It was me choosing that I had to do something that was so painful, awfully painful for me, which was leaving my mother, leaving my home. And God bless her. I mean, we're really good friends. She's plant-based coach herself. She's helping Latina older women how to eat healthier. And God bless her, through my transformation, her transformation happened. And that's something that, as you know, and I know a lot of your listeners probably know this, when you heal, your family, your entire bloodline starts to heal. That is why I go back to the importance of our DNA, because that's where consciousness is stored, is in our DNA. So making these very difficult choices, whether it's leaving environments that are not healthy for you, or whether that's leaving habits. For me, I never really had a TV. After I graduated from UCLA, I, decided to become an adult, and I got an apartment. And I remember I, decked it all out with new furniture, and I got a big flat screen TV, which honestly I never really used because I never decided to get cable. I just always had an intrinsic knowing. That's something that I do want to tell your followers. Always trust yourself. Really, really trust that voice that's inside of you, because that's really who you are. And it's a multidimensional being, right? You got your inner child, you got your self, your spirit, which is in this avatar, and then you got your higher self. So it's the Holy Trinity, right? But that's the voice that's inside and that's constantly flowing and moving. And so, always trust yourself. For me, it was like, you don't need to watch TV. You don't have time for this. You want to become a leader. Since I was young, I knew I wanted to get somewhere very far. And I thought it was working for the government, right? Working for the CIA. I think I shared this with you when we first met. But, it was funny because even then, it was when I was at UCLA, I got deviated out of there. And instead of studying political science, I studied philosophy. Because I knew that I was going to help people change the way they think. That's really how you help people, is by changing the way they think, not changing or telling them what to do, or forcing laws or regulations. You really just help them understand. And so for me, it didn't start, all full-fledged. I remember I was so addicted to Diet Coke when I was at college. I was always into fitness, working out, and, doing this, but I ate horribly because I thought I could, when you have an eating disorder, you don't really know what you're doing. And realistically, a lot of us just don't know how to eat. We're taught that, low-calorie diet, all of these things are good for us when they're all chemicals and should all be avoided. So I started by cutting out like soda, diet soda, and sugar, anything that was packaged. And I, would swap it out with kombucha. At first it tasted horrible, but then eventually what ends up happening is your taste buds adapt and you actually start to crave things. Like, I never thought that I would be craving a green juice or a green smoothie, or, a lot of my friends know me. If you're watching this and you know me, you're probably laughing because this is true. People will normally have a bag of chips. I will have a bag of spinach, and I'm literally eating the spinach like out of the bag. And that's like what I crave now, but it wasn't like that at first, right? But it's also because I understand. Once you understand what you're doing to yourself, I think you stop doing it and then you start doing the good things. When I started to understand that I was literally eating foods, packaged, processed, even animal products, anything that I was told and brainwashed to believe that was good for me, that wasn't. I started to understand, as I started to really educate myself, what was happening in my body, my digestive system, right? So for those of you that don't know, our body utilizes 85 to not 90% of our energy to digest food. So if you're going to be putting food, and let's just use food as an example, to digest, to use your energy for it, you want to use the highest frequency quality food available, the highest protein, the highest carbs, the highest sugars, like energetically speaking, right? Because not all carbs, not all sugars, not all proteins are created equally. They are not. Our body utilizes a lot more energy breaking down things that are not meant to be in its body, like dairy, like animal products, like, processed foods and all of that stuff. However, if you're feeding green juices, green smoothies, fresh fruits and vegetables, salads, grains that are loaded with antioxidants and vitamins and minerals. Like, I love black rice, I love my quinoa, I love my buckwheat, anything of like that that's an alkaline grain, and you make your own dressings. It becomes a lot more creative. You start using your energy to not only create a lot more fun stuff for yourself that brings you into a space of self-love that's unequivocal to anything else, but it also changes the energy in your body. So now all of a sudden, like, you don't have to work out so hard, you don't have to kill yourself at the gym, or even trying to stay awake taking the other things, you know, a lot of people like to take coffee, for example, for breakfast or before their breakfast. And I get it. It feels good. It tastes good. But you're not doing yourself a service. You're literally putting the first thing in your body is acidic. It's going to dehydrate you. It forces your liver to work a lot harder. And the liver can only do one thing at a time. And it's our main filter. So if you're looking to, you know, feel better in your body, to lose those extra pounds, to have more energy, then you want to understand what you're doing to your body by putting certain things that are not ideal. And you want to swap them out by those things that are going to give you, you know, the great skin, the great hair, the energy, not just physically, but also consciously. And that's where you want to navigate towards some more fresh rains. So once I started to really understand what I was doing to myself, I think that's really when the shift started to happen, right? And like, again, even though it wasn't easy, whether it was leaving my mom, whether it was leaving my addictions like sodas, whether it was leaving environments, that's another big one, right? Sometimes we hang out with people that, you know, we don't want to be alone and we want to have community, but we don't realize, like, I've been noticing even more and more now that people that I hang out with, their energy starts to become me. So when you are a light walker, a light being, a light worker, you are literally light, and it literally needs to be treasured, protected. You have to feed it with more things that bring you light, whether that's yoga, meditating, being out in nature, going on hikes, eating high vibrational foods like I was mentioning. All of these things feed you so that you can be empowered in your center and not needing, you know, energies from others. But when you don't have that light for yourself, you'll notice, you know, these are the people that tend to go around and you need energy from other people, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel empowering. You feel disempowered at the end of the day because if they're not in your presence or they're not in your energy field, what are you going to do for yourself, right? And that's when you go to these low energy cravings, whether that be alcohol or that be, you know, candy or, you know, fatty foods or fast foods. Like, there's a void that you're trying to fill, and that's why you go towards those things. However, if you start to feed your own void with your own light, right, choosing better foods, choosing better things to consume entertainment wise, like, there's nothing wrong with watching something that you enjoy, but what are you watching? Are you watching things that are making you feel, you know, anxious, frustrated, sad? Like, music is a big one, right? Everything is frequency. So I've told this to a lot of my clients in the past, like, be careful what you listen to, because what you listen to is going to affect how you feel. It has a certain energy and frequency. What do you think when you listen to hip hop? No offense, I love hip hop, but you know, your chakras, you'll notice that it will activate your solar plex, your sacral, and your root. So it's activating all lower chakras that make you want to dance and they make you want to get sexual, but it's not opening your heart, it's not opening your throat, it's not opening up your third eye, and it's not connecting you to source. So, you know, be very, very, very conscious of what you're consuming. Again, you know, whether that be people, food, entertainment, music, environments. Notice how you feel. And if you're not feeling at peace and just at ease, then remove yourself and trust that you are doing what's best for you and you don't need to explain it to anybody.
Preach, sister. There's a lot of different self-care practices. Obviously, everything that you said is part of your self-care practice. Is there anything that's just like, I know you're a big yogi and I know that you teach yoga. What is the one or two things that you just like cannot live without each day? You know, you got to do this for yourself.
I mean, my two things, a lot of people know this, and I've mentioned it a couple times already. It's definitely yoga. And eating healthy. Like, that are my two non-negotiables whatsoever. I will not deviate from it. So, you know, in my ideal setting right now, I'm traveling. I'm in Los Angeles where I used to live, but when I'm back in the Mexican Caribbean, I live in Tulum. I normally intermittent fasting is what I do every single day. So I'll consume water. I'll try to do a green juice or a green smoothie when I break my fast. The reason for that is I'm constantly detoxing. And the reason for that is, obviously, as a woman, we want to look good. We want to feel good. We want to have good hair. We want to have good skin. We want to stay young as long as possible. And I truly believe and know for a fact that that is possible because my mentors embody that. I embody that. You don't have to spend, you know, over the course of your lifetime, I think the average is $350,000 in beauty products. We don't need to do that. We can literally take a fraction of that and put it towards our food and have that skin and have have that glow and have that, you know, energy. And most importantly, you'll start to fall in love with yourself. And I say that from experience. I mean, I shared, I was obese, I had an eating disorder, I had cancer. Being at war with yourself is not fun. I know what that feels like. I know when those voices in the head try to take over and you don't want to be here, you don't love yourself. And I can say with assurance that those have, honestly, they don't exist anymore. And that is because of the amount of work that I've done on myself. And it doesn't, you know, it is a lifetime. It's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight, but every single day, every single moment, every single choice, you get to love on yourself. And when you do that, you'll notice that you really, I mean, I say this with confidence. I don't worry about anyone liking me anymore. I don't care about speaking my truth anymore, because I now understand that those that are in my tribe literally gravitate towards me. They love me. They want to just be around me. And I love that because I love being around them too, right? But I had to choose myself. Like, that was the biggest thing, is I had to choose myself in every circumstance, in every situation. I mean, you've been a relationship coach to me in the past, and those, you know, those were not easy choices, to have to choose myself over, you know, the person that I thought I loved. But you have to understand, like, you're the most important part of this puzzle. And if you're not happy, you're not getting what you need. Is it because other people aren't giving it to you, or is it because you're not giving it to yourself? And once you start to focus on yourself and you start to have these little rituals, they are rituals, you know, as silly as they may sound, they really are rituals to self-love and self-care. You get up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? Do you go to your phone and start to look for validation from other people? Or do you get up and do you go and throw your yoga mat down and, you know, take a couple moments and connect with yourself and get into your flow? And then after that, do you go and you make yourself a green juice or a green smoothie or some fresh fruit and just sit with yourself, grab a book that you love to read, like really ground with yourself, and then go out into the world. That may require you getting up a couple hours early, but hey, you're worth it. And that means that you're just not spending, you know, extra hours just wasting your time and energy. So I know I love to speak and go really deep into my explanations, but honestly, it's those two things: is having a yoga practice and good food, good high vibrational alive food, and making the time. Like, you have to make the time. I know a lot of people in the past, clients would come to me and say, I just don't have the time, you don't understand. And I always call BS on that, because you do. It's a belief system, but it's BS. And it's BS that it's BS, because you have all the time, right? You have 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to work, and 8 hours to play. That's 24 hours in one day. And it's all about prioritizing. Once you start prioritizing yourself and your health and your vitality and your consciousness, because at the end of the day, that's all you get to take with you. You're not going to take your body. You're not going to take your belongings. You're not going to take your lover. You're not going to take your children. You're not going to take any of these things with you. You're going to take your consciousness to the next life. So it behooves you to invest and invest and invest in becoming the best version of yourself and putting yourself first.
Thank you so much. It was so beautifully said. And it really is the biggest gift you can give yourself, is knowing thyself and loving thyself. And it's in that process that you'll heal thyself and illuminate thyself, because ultimately that's really what we're here to do, is just light ourselves up as much as we possibly can. And the more lit we are, and by the way, LIT is living in truth, you know, or LIGHT, living in God's harmonious truth. You know, that's really, I love when, you know, God or source speaks to us and gives us words of wisdom. And for whatever reason, acronyms are a big thing in the way they speak to me. And I'm like, that's just so awesome. And that's what your name means. Like you said at the beginning,
you cannot love others until you love yourself. I mean, if we're going to get into any of the topics that we're living with right now, we have to understand this is a self-love journey. And, you know, you asked me, like, what are some of my daily practices? And honestly, one of my daily practices that is not something I talk about a lot, but it's something that I do and I try my best to embody, is be the love and be the change you want to see in the world. Just do it. Don't go and tell others how to do it. Don't teach others how to, just do it. Just be the love and the change you want to see in the world. What does that mean? Someone does you nasty, does you ugly. I mean, you know me from the past, Esmeralda, I was the feisty, habanero Barbie, they used to call me. I don't do that anymore, because I get that people are hurting and they're suffering and we're all doing it. And if I am hurting and I've been suffering as my inner child has, in the past and everything I went through, what did I want and what did I need from others? I wanted love and I wanted compassion, even when I was being my worst self. So if I want that, I have to be willing to be and give that. And that is something that I really, on my subconscious, I'm constantly like, that's my daily practice. That's my yogi daily practice, not the physical, but the internal.
The internal. And it's so clear that you are absolutely living in your power, passion, and purpose. You radiate excitement and enthusiasm for what it is that you do. As a multidimensional, transformational, spiritual coach, who are you here to help?
Well, honestly, multidimensional says it in itself. I'm here to help all of you, whoever it is, from whether it's, health related issues, whether it's self-worth related issues, whether it's dealing with your complicated family members issues. At the end of the day, it all comes down to, it's a self-worth and it's a self-love game. And my specialty is helping you transform your body, how you look at yourself, how you love yourself, and actually live in peace in your body. So that's my main specialty, but I do obviously coach on those subjects. If you guys want to get in touch with me, I'm on Instagram at Transformation of Self. And my website is www.transformationofself.com. And you guys can reach me through there. You can DM me, you can send a book now request and get in touch with me via email. And whether you are looking for one-on-one coaching, whether you're looking to come down to Tulum for one of my transformational plant-based retreats, which I totally recommend, just let me know and I will be at your service.
Thank you again so much for being with us and for sharing all of your wisdom, and continued blessings on all of your endeavors.
Thank you so much, Janie. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and I hope this has brought you some form of inspiration for your day, and know that you're not by yourself. You're not out there all alone. We're here with you, and this community keeps getting bigger and bigger. So thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me, and so many blessings and love to all of you.
And thank you everyone for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. Your likes, shares, and follows are greatly appreciated because they help spread the love. Subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. Be sure to tune in next week when we'll feature mompreneur Ginger Cottrell. You aren't going to want to miss what she has to say about power, passion, and purpose. Till next time, peace be in us.